Hello everyone and welcome to the West Ham Transfer Rumours Show. Today we've got to discuss Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Callum Gallagher, Scott McTominay. But first we're going to start with Emerson, who looks like he could be the Hammers' 7th major summer signing of the transfer window after Fabrizio Romano tweeted this morning that the clubs are prepared to agree a fee of 13 million plus a potential 2 million of add-ons. And when it comes to Chelsea and Fabrizio Romano, I'm not going to argue with anything that man's got to say. This is the man that called out Brighton and Hove Albion and got it right. For those that are not on Twitter and don't know, Fabrizio Romano tweeted a few weeks ago, obviously, that Chelsea had agreed a fee with Brighton for Marc Cucurella. Brighton then tweeted out that despite reports on social media, nothing was an agreement between the two clubs. Obviously, people went back to Romano and said, well, looks like you've got this one wrong, doesn't it? Romano stuck to his guns. I think his words were, we'll see which one is lying. Obviously, it turned out that he was right then. Cucurella did join Chelsea. So when it comes to Chelsea's sources, I'm inclined to believe he's got some solid sources at Stamford Bridge. And Romano is tweeting out that the clubs have pretty much agreed a fee and that's between West Ham and Emerson now. However, has that really changed from a week ago? We were led to believe a week ago that there was something in place between West Ham and Chelsea. And at the start of the week, the deal went dead because of Emerson's personal terms, that what he wanted in order to move to West Ham. He's already on a chunky wage at Stamford Bridge, and it was believed to be that he was looking for a wage increase of around about £25,000 a week in order to move to London Stadium, which made us back off and say, no, that's a bit too rich for us. We'll leave it, thank you very much. But it appears the deal is back on, and that despite the reports earlier on in the week, something's got to have changed then. There's probably a number of reasons, but there's two main reasons I can think of that something's changed. So either A, Emerson's personal terms have altered, that he no longer wants that bigger wage increase. He's lowered his demands in order to move to West Ham. And it would make sense because he's going to get more first team football with us compared to staying at Stamford Bridge. He's not going to see first team football at Chelsea. So getting out of that club is probably the best thing for him in regards to playing football. So perhaps he's lowered his personal terms and that's made it a little bit more attractive to West Ham. We're prepared to meet what he wants now. Or B, we're getting desperate. We'll have a short list of left backs to some extent. Emerson he may not be. He may be at the bottom of this. We might not have any other alternatives. Might be a case of we don't go get Emerson. Who are we going to get? There's less than 2 weeks to go of the transfer window. And the answer is we don't know. So therefore it's Emerson or nothing at this point. And desperation's kicking in and we've decided we're just going to have to pay over the odds, pay more than what we want and get Emerson in. Because there's been no reports suggesting that Emerson doesn't want to come to West Ham. It's just that his wage demands were a bit too rich for us. Now, obviously, I hope it's A. I hope that Emerson has lowered his wage demands and that we're happy with it. And it's not B and we're getting a little bit desperate. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. This is just my own two conclusions as to why the deal will be back on. In regards to the player and the deal itself, my opinion hasn't changed. I still find it underwhelming. Perhaps there's a little bit of left-back football snobbery on my behalf here after seeing us linked to the likes of Owen Windal, Calvin Bassey. I've thought, yes please, to those younger, probably better left-backs as well, with a bigger ceiling as well. I would have preferred to have seen them come to West Ham, a longer-term solution than 28-year-old Emerson. But is Emerson an upgrade on Masuaku? Yes, because ultimately that is the replacement, isn't he? Emerson is taking Masuaku's place in the squad. Last season's squad compared to this season, Emerson will be taking Masuaku's place, and he's a massive upgrade on him. Is he an upgrade on Aaron Creswell? Today, I would suggest he is. I just don't think he's as big an upgrade as what other left backs we've been linked to in this window has been. Is he an upgrade on sort of prime Aaron Creswell? I'm not sure, you know. I know a lot of people laugh at me for this, but in all honesty, 28-year-old Aaron Creswell or Emerson today, I would prefer 28-year-old Aaron Creswell. But we don't have that Creswell anymore. Creswell's still got a lot to offer this club and this team, and I don't want to see Creswell leave. I really don't. I don't mind saying it. I'd like Creswell to go on and have a testimonial with West Ham United. I think he's been a fantastic servant, one of my favourite players at West Ham, an absolute bargain from what we paid for him. But he definitely needs competition at the club. Emerson will give him that. Like I said, an upgrade on Masuaku. I just think I'm probably being a little bit guilty of football snobbery against him. At the end of the day, he's in the Italian squad. Played left back against England in the Euros final as well. He's got a good footballing CV. I didn't see him last season when he was on loan. I didn't see him at all, so I can't really comment on his performances over the last 12 months, unlike a lot of people watching this can. I'm just a bit meh with the transfer, but I've got a feeling that this will be our 7th major summer signing. I'll tell you who it won't be though, if this happens. That's Charlie Taylor. West Ham are being linked to Burnley's left back. Well, he's now playing centre back at Burnley, isn't he? For $5 million. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it, I was going to say it quietly. I'm not. I'm just going to talk normally. I would prefer Charlie Taylor for $5 million and Emerson for 13. Honestly, that I've said it now. I've said it. I think Charlie Taylor at $5 million would be a really good signing for any Premier League club. Again, is he unbelievable? No, but I think he's a solid, really good level Premier League left back. You know what you're going to get from Charlie Taylor. Really strong defensively. Quite good offensively, gets forward quite well as well. I would have loved to have seen Charlie Taylor at West Ham, and at $5 million as well. Somebody's going to get a bargain. Whoever gets Taylor for $5 million is getting an absolute bargain. But it's not going to be West Ham, is it? Because if we go get Emerson, we ain't getting Charlie Taylor. We don't need both. Now a quick update on Hans Vanaken. I'm not going to go into depth as to whether I want to play or not. The Club Brugge manager yesterday admitted that Hans Vanaken wishes to leave and that he wants to join West Ham United. We had our opening bid of €10 million rejected by the Belgian club, but given that the manager is now admitting that the player wants to move to West Ham United, I've got a feeling this is a deal that could also happen as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if this time next week West Ham have got Emerson and Vanaken at the club. Maybe room for one more signing as well. But who's that? Well, there's a few players we're being linked to. We're going to discuss them in just a minute. Before we do, this video is sponsored by Spitch. Don't worry, you've still got time to get your team in for this weekend. The prize kitty at the free-to-play game is now over £700. The app is free to download. It's free to sign up. And the game that I'm playing, I want you guys to play as well, is completely free. And the Hammers Chat League is also completely free as well. Now you're watching this and the Premier League's already underway this weekend. Don't worry, you can still participate. You can only select players from the games that are yet to kick off. And one of my favourite things about Spitch is you pick a different 11 every single weekend. So for this weekend, you pick a team based on this week's fixtures. And then for next weekend, you pick a completely different 11 for that set of fixtures. There's no transfer limitations or anything with Spitch, and there's no budgets either. You can go over budget, you just start on minus points. But likewise, if you go under budget, you start off on plus points before a ball has even been kicked. Get it downloaded today using the link in the description so they know you've come from Hammers Chat. Make sure you join the Hammers Chat League and see how you get on against myself and Gonzo. He beat me last weekend. I'm out for revenge on this one. Now back to the transfer rumours, and we're going to start with Scott McTominay. Now this isn't even necessarily a rumour. He hasn't actually been linked to West Ham. And I know you're thinking, well, why are you including the West Ham transfer rumour show? Because he sort of has. The journalist has done something I think is quite clever here. He's done an article about Scott McTominay and mentioned West Ham in it. He hasn't said West Ham wants Scott McTominay. He's just put them both in the same article, almost giving you the 2 plus 2. And you've got to come up with 4 or 5 yourself. And plus, hypothetically, I'd like to discuss Scott McTominay, so, you know, let's do it. So the report itself suggests that Scott McTominay could be available. Obviously, Casemiro is set to join Manchester United from Real Madrid for $60 million. Which means that McTominay may depart Old Trafford, whether it be on loan or a sale. In the same article, it says that David Moyes is a fan of the centre midfielder. That's it. It doesn't say Moyes wants him, just that Moyes is a fan. It's letting you come up with the transfer rumour yourself. Now, I like Scott McTominay. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's because he plays for Scotland. Well, kind of, yes, but not for that reason. Not because I'm biased, but because I've seen him loads of times. The more you see of a player, the more data you have, and the stronger your opinion, whether it's a good one or a bad one. Now, I've seen Scott be incredible in some games for club and country where he's man of match, and against some superior opposition as well. But I've also seen him be rubbish in games. There's been some games for Scotland, it looks like he can't be arsed. Honestly, there's some games for Scotland where Scott McTominay doesn't look like he wants to be on the pitch. But I could also say that plenty about Andy Robertson as well from Liverpool. He comes and plays for us and it looks like he can't be bothered. While it frustrates me as a Scotland fan, as a West Ham fan, I don't feel I can use that against him. Because a Liverpool fan, we could never really say that about Andy Robertson, could they? He's versatile. He would tick that box for Moyes. at Scotland, he's played in the right centre-back or a back three quite often. He's the one that's sort of responsible for bringing the ball out from defence. And I think he is a really good player. I do. I'm a fan of Scott McTominay. But I don't think it's... I say don't think. It's definitely not what West Ham need. West Ham need a centre midfielder that's a bit more creative, that has that attacking side to his game. Pardon me. And that's not Scott McTominay. I don't necessarily think he's an out-and-out defensive midfielder either. I think he gets wrongly labelled up as that. I don't know how to describe him. I think he's got a bit of a box-to-box thing about him. He likes to get up the pitch. He really does. He likes to dribble and get into that final third and move the ball about, shooting from distance. He enjoys that as well. And I think he's shackled at Man United. I think he's a better player than what people perceive him to be based on the circus at Old Trafford. And I think he'd be a good signing for somebody, just not West Ham. He is not what we need. If we were to bring him in, he would probably go ahead of Flynn Downs in the pecking order, and that's not fair on somebody we've just spent 10 million on and we're not even giving him a crack at the whip yet. So we don't need him, and I think it would cost far too much money to get him out of Old Trafford as well. I don't know what he'd cost, 25, 30, 35 million maybe. He's not worth that to West Ham. He's worth that to someone, just not West Ham United. However, if he was available on loan, again I'd be inclined to say yes please, but then what's the benefit from West Ham? We get a decent Premier League centre midfielder for the season, but in that year he's playing football. Downs is not getting the football that he needs in order to step up to Premier League. So I don't, like I said, it's not even a rumour, but he's just not what we need, unfortunately. I'm a fan of Scott McTominay. I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's the right player for West Ham United. Now moving on to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, someone we have been linked with, the Arsenal. I mean, I don't even know what position to describe him as. He's a bit of everything. He can play right back, left back, right wing back, right mid, right wing, centre mid. He can play anywhere, really. Very, very, very versatile. This is possibly the most versatile player in the Premier League. Turns 25 next week. Was on loan at the Roma last season from Arsenal. And the reports are that we are trying to get him on loan, but it's more likely to be a permanent transfer. Now, 2 years ago, I would have loved this when he was just away to turn 23. I would have loved him at West Ham. Today, I'm a bit meh with it. I think he'd be a good addition to the squad. But the fact that he doesn't have a position, while it can be a good thing because he can cover loads, I think that's the problem. You'll use him as cover. We need somebody to play centre mid for a couple of games, and he goes. But when that centre midfielder comes back, he gets out of the team. He goes back in. And I think he'd end up sitting on the bench, essentially. I think he'd be, you get the term squad player, don't you? I think that's exactly what he is. He's somebody that just fills in as and when you need him. Is he good enough to start in our team? I'm not sure. I think he's, like I said, a really good player and a really good option, but I think that's probably his downfall. Obviously, Mourinho spoke highly of him last season, but they still didn't sign him, did they? They still didn't go and pursue him on a permanent transfer. I only seen a couple of Roma games last season. Both times, Maitland-Niles were playing right wing back in that team. I wouldn't be against seeing him at West Ham. I think he improves the squad, but not the starting 11, if that makes sense. That's how I'm going to summarise it, actually. Ainsley Maitland-Niles improves our matchday squad, improves the bench, but I'm not sure he's good enough to get into the team. I mean, obviously, if he gets a chance, he goes in and plays well, he stays in. But long term, bit of that meh signing for me. Now lastly is Connor Gallagher. We're being linked to him once again on loan because, well, for Chelsea to sell him, I think they're looking at 40 million, quite expensive. And I do think this guy would be unbelievable for West Ham. A bit rough around the edges. Again, came on for Chelsea last weekend, just like match day one, but only for a handful of minutes. So I think he's played about 5 minutes across both games so far. I think this one would be a no-brainer. Gallagher to West Ham be a no-brainer. I really wanted him a year ago before he went on loan to Crystal Palace. I loved what I've seen from him at West Brom, and he was on loan at West Brom at the same time as Maitland-Niles. Gallagher looked like he was too good for West Brom. Maitland-Niles looked like he was decent enough for West Brom, who then obviously got relegated. But Gallagher, listen, the second half of last season, Gallagher was reasonably poor for Crystal Palace. His goals dried up, his assists dried up, but he's still a young, brilliant player, and I would love to see him at West Ham. And now he's somebody that would improve the starting 11 as well as the squad. you could see Gallagher playing alongside. Well, see, the thing is, alongside Declan Rice, I'm not sure about that, actually. I think Gallagher has to play in a 3 because he loves to get forward. But he's quite, I guess, green is the word I would use. Final third, he's not as good as he possibly should be. But that's possibly why he will leave Chelsea. If he had that part of his game nurtured, if he was an accomplished player, if he was finessed with his final ball, he'd stay at Stamford Bridge and he'd have a good career with Chelsea. But that's sort of, I don't know how to word it, but just not quite being good enough just yet. It's why teams like West Ham have a chance of getting him. Give him a year or so at Stamford Bridge and you might not get him. This summer could be the only chance to go get someone like Gallagher. And I would love to see him at West Ham next season. Out of all the players that we've discussed in this video, he's the one that would excite me the most. He's possibly also the least likely that we're going to sign. But you fall into the Jesse Lingard trap here. You get him on loan, don't you? So what are you going to do? He comes here for a year. It happened to Crystal Palace fans. Palace fans fell in love with him, but they couldn't get him back. But that would sort of not concern me. But you do wonder why Palace didn't go get him, or Palace could still go get him now, but they aren't. And there must be a reason for that as well. But Palace fans fell in love with a player that they knew they couldn't get back. And we did it with Jesse Lingard. And that's the thing. I feel like we're too good for that now to some extent. That we shouldn't be relying on loans from the Champions League clubs that we can't then purchase. If there was an option to buy in this, great, no brainer. Make it 50 million if you want. Make it a stupid price. But if you know he's the perfect player, and it's a question I always say, and somebody reminded me yesterday, is there such a thing as paying too much for the perfect player? Put in a ridiculous fee. But if he came in and he was wonderful and he fitted into what we need and we relied on him, paying that extra bit of money that we probably wouldn't really want to do to get him on a permanent next summer, makes sense. Sometimes things in football make sense. Not often, but sometimes. Anyway, that's it for your West Ham transfer rumour show. Hopefully I didn't do too bad. I've got food poisoning at the minute. I've got salmonella, so I'm struggling a bit today. But, you know, this is our job. We can't take a day off. So, there you go. Your West Ham transfer rumour show. Emerson looks likely. That's about it, really. Vanaken wants to move. And there we go. Brighton tomorrow. Big game. I'm not feeling confident. I'm a bit nervous, actually. Nobody wants to play 3, lose 3, do they? So, fingers crossed we can get something tomorrow. But we'll be live tomorrow. An hour and 5 minutes for kick-off, as we are before every match day. Enjoyed this video, though. Please do drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. I'll catch you tomorrow.